Welcome to the X Block.
Am I right, Marine? Sir, yes, sir! Then listen up.
You're listening to the X Block. I'm Jared, he's Caleb. Let's get into it. You are listening to the X Block Podcast, episode 19. I'm Jared, and I'm here with Caleb.
Hey,
and this is the world's #1 Xbox podcast.
Most likely.
Yeah, probably not, but...
Probably not.
We gotta say it.
You know? Yeah, I mean, do you listen to any other Xbox podcasts?
No, absolutely not.
Me either, really, dude. I think we're probably the best. You know what, though? I do listen to our podcast every week, so I guess we are, right? Because I don't listen to anybody else's, because I check it for quality assurance, and I gotta say, we're pretty good, man. You know what? We are. I'm going with it. I'm sticking with it.
All right, probably again.
Probably, yeah. Fuck all you.
And to the guys that listen to this podcast and the gals, I just wanted to let you know that we were changing things up a bit.
Yo, what are we changing, Jaron? What's going on?
We're shrinking outside the box down to a max of 2 or 3 topics a week.
Why is that, Jaron?
Well, mostly to cut down on some editing time for me going forward, because we're just not going to be able to maintain the amount of time that it takes to edit this going forward.
Yeah, so that's true, because we're real boys with real lives, right?
Yeah.
And the pandemic made this a bit easier, but now we're just shrinking it. But for philosophical reasons as well, you got the realistic benefit of it being, shorter editing time, but also it kind of streamlines the whole podcast, right?
Yeah, the point of the podcast is that we're an Xbox podcast. And in previous episodes, in some of them, we've spent 60% of the time talking about outside the box news, even when we've had a lot of Xbox news and we've had to rush through the Xbox news.
Yeah, Jared and I were talking about it, and it's we do spend a lot of time in outside the box. And I'm like, Xbox is a third of the industry. So kind of that makes sense. But then Jared and I kind of talked about how we could improve the show and make it better, and shortening it, if we can, we're fucking not going to shorten it. That's a big part of it. But then also shrinking outside the box down to instead of a whole laundry list of just shit that is still tangentially related to Xbox, we could just make it 2 or 3 really focused, the bigger kind of outside the box news of the week. What are the bigger stories? We don't need, we don't need everything. We're still an Xbox podcast. It gives us more time to focus on the Xbox news if we need to. And like I said, streamlines the experience. And there's some other things too, right?
Yeah, there's some other things. We cut review roundup, which no one's heard in 10 episodes, so it's not like they care.
Yeah, we kept it going because it was a joke. It was a really good joke. And Jared and I figured that when games start coming out, we'll just talk about them anyway, if we want.
Yeah, we'll probably be playing them.
Yeah, so, they'll come up naturally, and you don't have to listen to the In a World for 10 minutes every episode, even though it was a great joke. It'll help with the editing and streamline the experience. And then there's 1 or 2 more things, right? Yeah,
the last thing is just that Game Pass or gameplay will be mentioned not every episode. It'll be talked about when we're playing the game. If I'm playing the game, I'll be like, oh, this is one of the games I'm playing. And I'll say it's from Game Pass or gameplay. Also, we're going to move reviewing the game to the last week of the month. And we're going to pick a new game like normal in the first week of the month. So that way it's kind of split up. So you guys don't get hammered with the review and then have to listen to us talk about the next game we're going to play.
Yeah. So to recap that, Game Pass or gameplay, we're not going to talk about it every week after the X Factor. Instead, it'll just come up naturally, as it always does, if we're playing it in the beginning intro. Like Jaron said, instead of, I guess that would be the first week of August this month. Are we doing...
The last week of July, we'll talk about Train Simulator, and the first week of August, we'll pick a new game.
There we go. Nailed it, dude. I'm excited. It's more work for me in a week, but whatever. And so we're not going to go over that every week, but that is what's changing with the show.
Yep.
Hopefully it'll be shorter, but we're also stupid, so probably not. And then it'll be more streamlined and more Xbox focused. And the FAF is there as always.
Everybody loves the FAF, so the FAF's got to stay.
And if you've been here a long time, you've already noticed that the FAF has gotten naturally shorter. So
it's true. Just like Caleb.
Yeah. Hey, no, well, I don't get shorter. I'm just naturally short. Is that better or worse? I don't know. It's fucking, I don't care. Fuck you.
What have you been playing, Caleb?
Dude, this week... Let's see. The Halo, the Master Chief Collection, Chinese, right? Every week. Here's what I'm at, Jared. I'm looking at it right now. I'm at a whopping God-given 69% completion.
Oh, you gotta stop.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, but then I'm like, no, you gotta keep trucking. You can't just... I gotta forsake my religion here. But I got 3,300 gamer score out of 4,755.
That's too much.
I've got everything, actually, except for things that are legit multiplayer. the Lasso playlist, Legendary in under 3 hours in those games, and then like some par score part-time stuff, and then a couple playlist achievements. That sounds like a lot, but it's way less than you'd think. I went through and got like all the miscellaneous bullshit to fucking jump into an elephant's butthole on level 7 of this, like that kind of stuff. It's gone.
Can you only play with Chinese people?
No, you got to hit up the homies on True Achievements who hopefully you can find new people getting into this game that are constantly dropping in. You can organize something, but there are forums and stuff where if you really want, and I'm just gonna kind of naturally try to see if I can make something happen. If not, I'm just gonna let it go, with the multiplayer for that. But if I can get something going on, then yeah, I'll try to get some of the homies in there and I'll let you know how that goes on this show. Other than that, though, every week with fucking Halo, I've been playing Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege with Juwan and Austin. What up? And then lastly, I mean, that's just, normal. I'm just Caveira. I run around silenced and kill everybody in the match consistently, and that's kind of how that goes. And then I scream every now and then. And then finally, I fulfilled my, promise of last week where I said I was going to start Control. Dude, I did.
Ooh.
And I gotta say, I like it way more than I thought I would.
That was me too.
Yeah, like I thought, I knew kind of it was overrated. I've even heard and forgot the story premise. I've heard a spoiler cast for this game already when it came out, and I forgot. I don't know anything about the story because the people reviewing it didn't understand the story either. So I literally have no idea how the game ends or anything like that. But I even knowing what I knew about the game, I was actually really impressed. And I feel like it drops off a little bit from where I am now. I'm in like the research wing. I finally got to the research area. You found like Dr. Darling's lab and shit.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with that. So I'm kind of in that area, and it dropped off a bit from the beginning. But I would say like the first 2 hours of that game with like when you don't quite understand. I mean, you never understand the whole game, but when you really don't understand shit, and you're just kind of walking around this bureau,
Yeah.
It's just it's like a real cool vibe, and you're just like slowly discovering shit about the astral nature of your powers and like the world and all this shit. That was a really fun and engaging experience I found. And the level design and like the general atmosphere in that game is top notch. I'll give them that. So shout out to
Remedy.
Yeah, Remedy. I didn't want to make sure I didn't say like Rebellion or something stupid, but yeah, they make great games so far. What is it? Quantum Break, Alan Wake, this game. Did they make something in between there? I don't remember.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I'm going to finish Control. I'm going to get all the achievements. I'm going to play the DLC. Did you play the DLC?
Yeah, I played all the DLC.
Okay. Is it like super long?
It's like a decent length. It's not terrible.
Okay. Decent length. That really narrows it down, Jared. Appreciate it.
You're not going to hate it. It's not going to be quick.
All right. That's fine. Whatever. I'll be fine. And I'm playing, by the way, I should mention, it's in Game Pass. And so it's not the next gen version that's ray tracing and like 60 frames and all that shit, but also you don't have to pay for it because it's in Game Pass. So I already bought the DLC and that was way cheaper than buying the next gen upgrade of the game. And even then, I'm surprised how good the lighting looks in that game without ray tracing. I'll say that too. But yeah, it's pretty fun, and that's what I've been playing. What about you, Jaren? Yeah, I have an idea, but go ahead.
I started up Mafia before I went on my trip. I went to press start, and then someone called me to do something else, and that was the last time that I've had my hands on a controller.
Co-host of the world's #1 Xbox podcast, probably. No, but that's fair. I have weeks like that too. Where'd you go on your trip? You live in Toronto, right? So would you walk north?
Yeah, we essentially went to this kind of cabin, and it's like right next to another cabin, and it has all of these like animals that are kind of surrounding it, and you're kind of in like this fenced in place. So every time you go outside, there's like a pig or a goat, and you can like hang out with the animals and stuff.
It's in your fucking wheelhouse, dude. That's
yeah, dude, it was fun.
Among the sloth of the earth, yeah. All right. Good
yeah,
for you,
I had
man.
a solid time.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's not really games related, but I was interested, and that's pretty good. Did you get like tan or anything?
Oh, no, dude. Even when I'm outside, I'm inside.
It's white as the driven snow. All right. Forever and always.
And now we should move into our newly revamped Outside the Box.
I'm thinking outside the box,
where we cover all the news you need to know outside the Xbox community. All right, Caleb, an Assassin's Creed might be going Fortnite. You hear about this?
Oh, man. Listen, I saw this news, and I'll let you explain what it is and what's going on. I had mixed feelings that I will get into with my... By the way, I'm like totally sleep deprived. I don't know if the audience doesn't know that, but it's like we're recording this at 9:30 in the morning for me on a Saturday. I've got like 2 hours of sleep in the past like 2 days. It's been crazy. But yeah, I mean, this Ubisoft news, I'm so tired, I'm rambling. This Ubisoft news, though, go ahead, Jaren, go ahead.
Ubisoft is working on a massive online Assassin's Creed game that will evolve over time as a live service. Bloomberg's Jason Schreier reported earlier today that the project has the codename Assassin's Creed Infinity and will be a large online platform that will continue to grow in the months and years following its release. This article's from VGC, posted by Chris Scullion.
Oh, Chris? I know Chris. No, I don't actually know Chris. Yes, Chris Scullion, right?
Yep. And the report claims that while previous Assassin's Creed games were set in specific historical periods, Assassin's Creed Infinity will be set in multiple different periods, and this could expand to even more over time. Ubisoft has since confirmed the game's existence in a blog post, but has given no information on what the game is, and other than the fact that it will be a collaboration between both Ubisoft Montreal and Ubisoft Quebec. So there you go, Caleb. That's kind of the broad stroke of what's happening.
Those are the people been juggling back and forth like Origins and Odyssey and Valhalla, right?
Yeah, they've been swapping.
Yeah, and now they're like making this one apparently shared. I don't even know what is it gonna. It's not like an MMO, right? It's like it's just. I guess it is kind of though, right? Isn't it? I don't know. What is it?
Yeah, if it's a massive online Assassin's Creed game, that technically is an MMO because it's a massive multiplayer online game.
Yeah, it's a massive online Assassin's Creed game, but like, I guess they're aiming obviously more for something like a Destiny or Division.
Unless there's no multiplayer, because they just say massive online, so it could just be one single game that is just constantly updated like EA should have done with their sports games forever.
This seems like it's going to be a change, maybe. Not in terms of gameplay per se, although I assume the gameplay will change in some way from this. But it's going to be a change in terms of the general game and how the game itself works from like, what was it, Syndicate to Origins, right? It's like going from Syndicate to Origins.
Yeah, like Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, because Syndicate was still in like the old style of Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's like a new shift. And it's interesting because they say in this post, they say, quote, "Rather than continuing to pass the baton from game to game, we profoundly believe this is an opportunity for one of Ubisoft's most beloved franchises to evolve in a more integrated and collaborative manner that's less centered on studios and more focused on talent and leadership, no matter where they are within Ubisoft." I don't know what that means. What do they mean less centered on studios and more focused on talent and leadership?
That means if like the janitor over in their Munich studio has a really good idea, that it doesn't matter that he's working on a completely different game. He can just, pop into the computer terminal and write out his idea, and they just take it and put it in Assassin's Creed.
But these studios still exist, so they're still in studio structures and still developing in that way, right? So how does that work?
It's not like they broke up both studios and created the Assassin's Creed team.
Exactly. Then it would be different, where you're like, we're merging all these teams in a very fluid and weird hierarchical way within the studios. But they're like, no, like we have both these studios and they're working on the game. And I'm like, I guess that means you can draw from different people from the studios as you're developing the game. But it doesn't seem like the structure in terms of like bosses and how that works is, and you said, because it's more focused on talent and leadership. It's like, well, the leadership's the same, right? I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like before when one team was making Odyssey and the other team was making Valhalla, that if they phoned each other, that they went, fuck off, you're making a different game.
Yeah,
like they definitely still helped.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure that they developed those games like kind of in flood, like some people and from various studios helped out when they weren't actually developing it primarily at the other studio. But anyway, this is like in line with Ubisoft's thing that they've been doing, when that article that broke, I think it was in the beginning of this year, where they said they were focusing more on like games as service stuff,
Yeah.
And then we talked about how they're kind of becoming more like EA, whereas EA is like taking a step back and focusing more on single player after like Jedi Fallen Order. It's like Ubisoft's making another EA move.
Yeah, EA has slowly influenced Ubisoft to just become like them, but hopefully they've learned from everything EA did wrong. They can stay on the right side of history.
Yeah, we hope so. And it looks like, I don't know what the premise for this is. Like, are there going to be a bunch of animuses or animus? I don't fuck it. Are there going to be multiple animus machines in the game that lets you go to different time periods and stuff? And it's just going to be an ever evolving, basically what every game's doing now, where it's like 10 years of Assassin's Creed with this game,
Dude, once you finish Valhalla and you like finish the story there, I think you'll be kind of confused on how the game was going to go forward anyway. So maybe they just needed this this change.
That's good, and that kind of speaks to, I think I told you in the beginning of the story that I felt mixed feelings about it, because when they said that they're just going to have Assassin's Creed Infinity, Halo Infinity, whatever the fuck they're going to call it, because I don't know if it's actually going to be Halo, or not Halo, Assassin's Creed Infinite. I think they're Infinity. That's just a code name, right?
Yeah, it's a
so
code
they may
name.
or may not use that. So whatever they're going to call it, it's like, okay, so they're just going to be released there. Are they not going to release other Assassin's Creed games, or are they going to be like much smaller in scope next to it? Or that wouldn't even make sense, because theoretically you would just then put them into this game. So it seems like this is just going to be Assassin's Creed moving forward. And I was kind of like, oh, thank God, because I just don't have, I just won't buy it. Like, I just won't play this game, and then I don't have to worry about 120 hours of my life disappearing every 2 years,
The weird thing about it is that it's still 3 years away, which...
Oh, yeah, so there's going to be another one.
Does that mean there's a middle game to kind of like cross us over to this one that'll make it all make more sense?
Maybe there's a weird smaller shoot-off game, or maybe there's at least one more big game, or I wouldn't even put it past Ubisoft at this point to literally just take the time until this game's done and really make it like big for when it comes out, and then try to make a lot of money off it long term. Yeah. I'm not sure. I guess we'll see. People in the know obviously know more about what's going on at these studios.
And then the one last thing to point out about this is, which Jason Schreier points out, is that several people accused of abuse remain in the lead roles after this reorganization, which has led to complaints from people within the company, not just games journalists, on internal forums. And a Ubisoft spokeswoman says that, we reviewed everything, and if we didn't let them go, they were either exonerated or underwent appropriate disciplinary actions. And you know what? I just want to say, like, dude, just like let the diddlers go, man. You don't need them. There's so many other talented people in the world. I don't know why you're doing this to yourselves, guys.
I don't know what, like, here's the thing. So one guy, Mark Alexis Cote or something, he was confirmed, was confirmed to be leading this new kind of cross-studio collaborative structure. So I guess that is one change in leadership. It looks like this guy's at the head. And apparently he was a person who didn't do anything, but knew about other kind of leaders being abusive and toxic, whatever that means, and then not like reporting it or doing anything about it.
Yeah.
And so this guy's in charge, I guess. I don't really know. I don't know the specifics of any of these situations, and I would be probably too ignorant to comment on them. But maybe I'll say as a comment, perhaps there are better people for the job. Perhaps not. I don't know.
Yeah, if you want, like where you put a guy in charge and he's like, yo, the buck stops with me. Maybe don't put the guy who, when he hears about abuse and people like diddling other people, just goes, not my problem.
Yeah, he can't just knock on the door and be like, hey, Jim, Taylor says you're a diddler. What's up with that, man? Like, what's going on? Like, you want to talk about that for a minute? What's up? Why are you diddling?
He just says, "Oh, that's nice. Get out of my office."
Yeah. So there you go. That's what's going on in Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft's world for the next ever. And I'm sure we'll get more news with this moving forward in the coming months and like years. So
and the other tuned. Of our two stories, I'm giving Caleb a choice here. Do you want to talk about the new PS5 and PS4 games from Sony's latest State of Play, or would you rather talk about Grand Theft Auto 6?
I saw this, and I thought both, because reports suggest Grand Theft Auto 6 could release in 2024 or 2025. No shit, or 2026. I wouldn't be surprised. All right, that's GTA 6. Now to the next story, Jaren.
There you go. That's what I figured you were going to do.
Yeah, I figured you figured, because there's no way you looked at that and thought that I wouldn't say that.
So, quickly, the PlayStation, what are they called? State of Play. They had one on Thursday. It was headlined by a game made by Xbox.
Hell yeah, dude. We in there. We made it, boys.
Or I guess made by Microsoft, because Bethesda's not part of Xbox.
Oh, yeah, independent publisher.
Yeah, whatever. Which everybody points out. They're like, in the chat, when everybody's making jokes about how an Xbox Game Studios game is leading a PlayStation State of Play, and everyone's like, well, they're not actually an X. It's like, fucking Christ. Jesus Christ. Can we all just agree that this is a bit stupid?
Yeah, Xbox leaves them alone, but they also give them money and supplies, and they control how their games are put where. So, take that how you will.
Yeah, and it's funny that I'm betting, because of a deal made previously, that Sony has to give this game a certain amount of marketing time, so Microsoft doesn't have to market it at all until when it comes to Xbox. Yeah,
that was the interesting thing, right? Is that Deathloop, which is what we're talking about in case you didn't catch on. Deathloop wasn't at E3, at Xbox's E3.
Yeah.
They didn't show it, even though it's a game releasing by Bethesda this year.
Yeah, they just showed Arcane's next game.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, it's on PlayStation. We don't care. I ain't gonna talk about that shit.
So essentially this state of play, I think fans of PlayStation wanted a bit more because obviously this is like the closest one to E3 and pretty much they showed a bunch of indie games which look kind of cool. The only really game that I was like, wow, I want to play that is Sifu, which is that like kung fu kind of game.
Yeah, I didn't see everything from this, but I saw some of it. Sifu was one of the things that I didn't actually see. So is that one's cool?
We've seen it before. Like we've seen it at other PlayStation conferences before,
okay.
But this one they had kind of like a more gameplay like teaser kind of deep dive thing in it. And this game looks cool, but it's coming to PC, so I don't really care then about not being able to play it or needing to get a PlayStation.
Yeah, I mean, they showed like 10 or 11 games here. Moss Book 2 was one that caught my eye. That was a popular PSVR title, Moss, the original Moss. Apparently it's really good. I haven't played it, but everyone who plays it usually loves it. I haven't heard anybody shit on it. And so they got money to do a sequel. And but apparently it's not coming to PSVR 2, or we assume when PSVR 2 comes out, it's just going to be ported over. But it's actually like a normal, is it PS4, PS5 game? Like what is it? PSVR game? It's a PSVR game. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a PSVR game, but then they showed PS5 like name branding at the end. But yeah,
so
then I heard that
weird.
It's only coming to PSVR, but I don't know, dude. It's Sony. Sony for some reason can't figure out how to message anything.
No, they can't. Then you have this Tribes of Midgard thing, which I think is a Gearbox some shit or other, and they already have like a season pass kind of thing planned, right? For like a season 1,
yeah. Even
though the game's not out. That shit was weird. They have Fist, which looks like Tribes of Fist is the one that looks like Biomutant.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it looks exactly like Biomutant, but I don't know what the difference is. What do you think of Fist?
I don't know. See, the whole thing is, everything looks interesting here. It's just, the thing about it is, like, everybody knocks on Xbox for everything they show coming to PC. Pretty much every indie game shown here, with the exception of like Moss 2, which is a PSVR game. I think that might be the only exception, unless there's maybe one of these indie games that's only coming to PlayStation.
As well,
I don't know if Demon Slayer is. That one might not be, but it seems
that's
like
based on an anime.
Pretty much most shit on here is coming to PC. Like, isn't even the Death Stranding Director's Cut coming to PC? Because they say it has ultra-wide monitor support.
Yeah, I think so. Right? That would make sense. Yeah, also shout out to Sony finding ways to resell you games. Brilliant move from them with Death Stranding and like, what's the other one? Well, they got Last of Us Part 2 coming back up later, right? They already got that planned. And then they have Ghost of Tsushima, right?
Yeah.
Just reselling you shit. Good for you guys. Like a year away. Game's a year away, reselling it.
They're going with the they're slowly changing to the Nintendo approach. And everyone just seems to be fine with it. Everyone's like, "Oh, I like this game. I'm down to pay for a upgrade for it." I'm like, "Just play a different game."
Yeah, like honestly, there's so many games. Honestly, my backlog is so huge. I'm always playing a game from 2014 because I never played it because I'm playing so much shit.
Yeah, so really, I just kind of wanted to like briefly talk and acknowledge that this happened, and even like the PlayStation fans didn't seem to be that excited about it. I saw kind of like a mixed kind of reaction because they didn't show anything groundbreaking, and it's the closest thing they did.
Yeah, it's not anything huge, but maybe if you don't just play AAA games, there may be something for you here still. Like there may be something here for like everybody. I don't know. And then also, I mean, this is kind of a tangent. It's a side thing, but I guess we should mention for Outside the Box that they Nintendo announced the new fucking Switch.
Oh yeah, I put that in the FAF.
Okay, I didn't know, but that makes so much sense. I'll be glad to talk about that later. It belongs there.
All right, and I guess that's the end of Outside the Box. The main story was the Assassin's Creed thing.
That was so much quicker, wasn't it? Didn't you like that more, audience? Didn't you enjoy that? We're already moving into the Xbox news that quick.
Yeah, so now we're hopping over to the X block.
Well, I don't know the drums there. He gets into like a snare, right? Like a snare drum.
I don't know, because anytime I hear you do it, it somehow brings me further from knowing the song.
Okay, one day, me too, because I haven't listened to it in months. And also, I was a little off key there at one point, so that kind of fucked me up. But one day we're gonna, maybe by the end of this, dude, 400 episodes in, I'm just gonna be singing Justin Bieber's "Baby," like something stupid. It's not even gonna be the same thing anymore.
The first story in the X block: Xbox is still planning to murder Gold, and by writing this is so. What I'm gonna say about this, we're gonna do a brief stop here.
Hit me with it, Jaren. Hit me. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is a Jeff Grubb insider kind of thing that he's saying. That being said, on this one, I feel like he said this last year, and where he was like, oh, they're going to remove gold at some point. If you just say they're going to remove gold at some point every single year, obviously you're going to be right at one point. Like, I feel like this is like, he's not even really talking to his sources. He's just kind of like, hey, I've heard stuff from inside Microsoft that on a board somewhere, it says, hey, we will eventually remove Xbox Gold or Xbox Live Gold. But then everything else he says is purely just speculation.
Yeah, dude, this is yeah, Jeff Grubb is like a notable Xbox insider kind of person. And sometimes he says stuff where you're like, oh shit, I didn't know, that's kind of crazy, kind of weird. And then he says stuff where like, Jaren, I swear to God, if you looked at me and we saw each other in real life, which never happens, but if you were in front of me and I was looking up at you and you were looking down at me and you said, Caleb, you have to make a bet, all right? You have to put $10,000 down. You either keep it or you lose it. Will there be Xbox Live Gold? Will that exist in 15 years? I'm gonna put $15,000 or 10 or whatever I said on fucking no. Like, obviously not. That's not like an insider bullshit thing. It's like, no, well, of course gold's going away. Obviously, clearly it's going away.
It also doesn't make sense as a fundamental business proposition because, like, yeah, it's a good chunk of money, but it seems like a bad, like, looking kind of, there's bad optics on it when you release your game simultaneously on PC and on Xbox, and the people on PC don't have to pay for multiplayer, and the people on Xbox do.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, and he said that in that thing, or in his statements from whatever he was on. I can't remember what he appeared on.
I think this is his podcast, or whatever their podcast is.
Okay. So yeah, he was there, and he was like, so according to him, I don't know how much he was like verified this shit, but he was saying what everyone knows, which is that like, once Game Pass hits a certain number of subscribers, like a certain subscriber count, he assumes in the range of 40 to 50 million. And I would say that's a pretty astute estimate. I would probably agree that they're just going to like cancel gold. And that maybe when they hit 30 million or so, which he says that I think he said that they're at about 23 million right now, roughly. When they hit 30 million or so, they'll probably reassess gold, but they probably won't get rid of it until like 40, 50 million. And that just makes sense. That's just rational.
Yeah, it's like a guess that I feel like anybody who has a cursory knowledge of the Xbox ecosystem could have made. That's why this is the only one where I don't understand why this is a full page story. Like, the title of it seems to be like, wow, this is actually something that's going to happen. Like VGC writes, Xbox is still planning to drop Live Gold, it's claimed. But then, like, Grubb doesn't really say that he talked to anyone specifically to get this info. It just seems like a guess.
Yeah, he didn't say I have an Xbox higher up who confirmed to me that gold is on the chopping block and what an undisclosed amount of time, some shit. You know, like that kind of stuff. It didn't seem to happen.
Yeah, so I don't know why this is like such a massive story. I threw it in here because I wanted to like give him the same kind of criticism we give Xbox of like, if you're gonna say something, at least tell me somewhat of your sources. Like, I don't need names of sources, but be like, hey, 3 people from Microsoft confirmed that gold is on a board where they're like, hey, we're gonna chop this at some point.
Yeah, stuff like that's good. I was gonna challenge you just slightly when you said like, I don't need names, and I was like, yo, when Jason Schreier writes those fucking articles about CD Projekt Red or whatever the hell he's writing about, and he's like, I have 30 anonymous sources, you're like, bro, you need to drop some names. Like, sorry. You know, like, who are these people? But anyway, yeah, go ahead. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to the next kind of news in the X block. Game Pass was key for the acquisition of Contraband made by Avalanche, apparently.
This was an interesting article. Yeah. I hadn't read this until I saw the doc.
Yeah. So Avalanche Studios CEO Pim Holfe has explained why he's so happy to be working with Xbox on upcoming Contraband, and it comes down in a major part to Game Pass. Holfe even says that Game Pass has turned Xbox into a more important platform than Avalanche thought it would be for previous games. And they'd go through this. I don't want to read the whole article to you, because then why don't you just go read it your fucking self?
It's at IGN, by the way.
Yeah, go to IGN, check it out. It's by Liam.
What up, Bleep?
And essentially, they kind of point to previous games they've done in Hunter's Call of the Wild, and they say how Game Pass brought a lot more players to that game than they thought it would, especially since they kind of foresaw that game as being largely a PC game. But the Xbox community was very vibrant in it because of Game Pass. So I think that kind of led towards these two, like Microsoft and Avalanche, kind of working together to kind of do this Contraband game. Now, the one thing I'll just question about this is there's been a ton of rumors that Microsoft is going to buy Avalanche. So if that comes out in like 3 weeks where Microsoft buys Avalanche, then this whole article seems kind of like pandering because you're being bought by the company that you're praising.
I could agree with that if that ends up happening. It's a good kind of like future, proofing this article where you're like, dude, if you guys get bought, I don't know. Otherwise, they seem to echo what a lot of developers say about Game Pass. It's just an audience booster, and you still get the sales from other hardware if you release as like on everywhere. And if not, your game just gets like super big marketing that it otherwise would not get. And everyone says that, and you hit a huge player count. And then these people say, this is another point that I wanted to talk to you about because you and I, this kind of affects us in a broader way. But they say, quote, "The Hunter Call of the Wild helped us prove our service model, and Xbox Game Pass was fantastic because we were able to reach so many more players. It's a good way for people to try the game, and since we have such a massive DLC catalog for that title, over 20 DLCs, it's a beautiful way of getting people in, getting engaged, and showing that it's a stellar game. Then people are really tempted to buy more. So the business model really works to our advantage." So that's kind of something you and I have talked about without having anyone explicitly tell us that, but it seems like possibly a negative consequence of Game Pass in the long term, where if you build your game with a focus on Game Pass even, or that kind of model, it would lean towards, you develop the game and then you have just a ton of supplemental content in terms of DLC. Like the general culture around DLC and add-on content that some gamers love, but a lot of hardcore gamers don't really love. That seems to be kind of precipitated by Xbox in that, like with Game Pass, like in this way, where that's like how you make money. That's one of the ways you make money with it, right? Is you get people eyes on your game and then people go buy your add-ons.
In this sense of a game, though, like this is one of those
Sucks for achievements.
Massively like big and open and expansive kind of do your own thing games. Like even Minecraft, if you broke down how many DLCs it has because of all the skin packs and all that kind of thing, it probably has like 100. But like you're not really walled out of Minecraft without buying any of those things. So I think that's a good call. That's kind of the DLC that's being talked about in this Hunter Call of the Wild game. Like, it's not like huge map expansions and all that kind of stuff that they're charging for.
Because that shit would suck, but more, I guess, skins and cosmetics, that's still good. Like, that's fine where it doesn't affect me in any way, and those aren't really, there's no achievements tied to that either, to skins and cosmetics. But you have people like Chris Ray Gun, too, I've heard talk about how the whole, like, it's a deeper philosophical point about games, where, like, the new culture around games to be like Fortnite and the whole cosmetic bullshit and everything, just take, like, it just so heavily removes art style from games.
Yeah.
Like, you have games with a real feel of, like, this is what this game's about, and this is the art style, this is the atmosphere, and this is what the characters look like, this is what the guns look like. There's no dancing emotes bullshit, whatever. And with all these games that have, like, it's just a explosion of colors and bullshit and this and that in every game like this, you're really, like, taking away just, like, the identity of games and their art style. But that's, like, an even more abstract conversation.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting thing to talk about. In the last of the terms of Game Pass here, like the last thing I want to mention is we haven't seen anything from Microsoft that kind of shows of this transition towards like, hey, we're going to drop a single player game and then we're going to charge you for 20 DLCs. So as long as the first parties of these games aren't necessarily doing that, then I'm not too worried about it as like kind of the broad approach overall, because obviously there's going to be live services games that have more DLC than other kind of games, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like I assume Flight Simulator will add probably like 10 more planes over the next 6 or 7 years.
And in the first party, I guess you have an instance where like Gears 5 dropped Hive Busters for free if you had Game Pass Ultimate. So that's kind of a cool thing, like that whole like campaign expansion. But I guess it's something to keep an eye out for moving forward with Game Pass and like how that affects the ecosystem in that way.
Yeah, and if it's annoying, you'll definitely hear that it's annoying from us here.
Yeah, we need to be on Reddit and be loud. Then we'll affect change.
Next up, Sony will lose another big PS5 exclusive in September 2022. And it's not really that surprising. Obviously, Deathloop will only be exclusive to PS5 for 1 year, and it can head to Xbox in 2022. So that's a nice boost for Microsoft's fall 2022 lineup, where they basically just get a game for free that they're slapping into their Game Pass model.
Yeah, this is so did we, like the general did we know that Deathloop was going to be a year out, or did we just know, like, did we think 6 months to a year? Like, we knew it was going to be a timed thing, right?
Everyone, they never said it, but everybody was expecting a year because that's how a bunch of Sony's recent kind of deals have been.
Okay.
So everyone is expecting a year for this and a year for that Ghostwire Tokyo game.
This was a funny advertisement that everyone missed. I never thought I'd say this in my life, Jaron, but shout out to Kotaku for writing this article. But during the 9-minute gameplay of Deathloop during that state of play, during Sony's state of play, they wrote, who is this person? Fucking Zach Zweisen at Kotaku writes, in the latest Deathloop trailer, which first appeared at Sony's recent state of play, aired on July 8th, a very brief, easy-to-miss bit of text at the end of the video officially revealed that Deathloop will only be console exclusive for PS5 for 1 year. After September 14th, 2022, the game can appear on other consoles, and then the game was already planned to be on PC at launch. So other consoles means Xbox, and that's how that news dropped. It dropped during the state of play. You're like, oh, all right.
Wait, is it in... this is where I want to really get into the context. Like, I wish we had a Microsoft person that we could talk to for things. Because if this game launches on PC, day one, alongside the PS5 version, that would mean that it also is probably in PC Game Pass at launch?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
So, if it's in PC Game Pass at launch, is it allowed to be in cloud at launch? Which means then can I stream it to my Xbox on cloud and just play it?
God, dude, you're playing some like Yu-Gi-Oh fucking trap card bullshit, 3 turns in advance, monster face down nonsense out here, dude. Some roundabout bullshit. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. We're gonna find out though, aren't we?
Yeah, like, is this just gonna be something that you can only play on the cloud on the Series X until September? And then you can play the game to download it?
That's gonna be brilliant. But by the way, I just want to add here, I'm not even mad about Deathloop's like console exclusivity. First of all, I wasn't going to have time to play it anyway. I wasn't going to play it when it came out. Even in Game Pass, I wasn't going to start it. I got a lot of shit to play. Now it'll be out for a year. Hopefully the game will be better by that point. You know, like maybe more content. The bugs and kinks will be ironed out. And then I'll get it in Game Pass without having... All I have to do is, I guess, open my eyeballs that morning.
That's
and
true.
So that'll be nice.
And here at the X Block, we just wanted to thank PlayStation players for funding the ability to put this game in Game Pass.
I appreciate it. That's really nice of you. You didn't have to do that for me, but I appreciate it.
Moving on to the next story, Microsoft is working on game upscaling technology powered by AI.
This was weird. This was not weird. It was weird, but it was interesting because I didn't know about this either. You were dropping some news on me in the doc this week. I read this and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, so most console people won't have any idea what this means, so I'll try to kind of break it down in a very simple and easily understanding
you're
way.
Stupid, and he's gonna explain it to you like you're stupid. Go ahead, Jaron.
So essentially, NVIDIA already had this technology with deep learning super sampling. It's called DLSS, and
AMD has it too.
AMD has it with Fidelity FX super resolution, and then Epic has something with temporal super resolution.
No one knows what that is. No one knows.
But the more one that I've heard the most about was the NVIDIA one, and then I've started to be hearing more about the AMD one.
Yeah, mainly. Yeah.
And essentially, it's AI that kind of can control the resolution and the graphical fidelity and kind of make it so lower end PCs and now consoles can run the games at like a higher kind of like resolution level, and it upscales them to make the game look better even though they're not actually running it natively at that resolution.
Exactly. And PC Gamer, who wrote this article, frames it in a good way where they're like upscaling during the PS4 Pro, Xbox One X era was kind of a dirty word with like the upscaled 4K, the PS4 Pro and shit.
Yeah.
This is a different thing where with the new systems and how everything's working out with 120 frames output and SSD and ray tracing and all these performance mode versus resolution mode, all this shit, it looks like Xbox is kind of working on a way similar to that happens on PC, but for the Series X and Series S, where they can upscale the resolution using this AI software. If I'm not mistaken, how I'm explaining this, they upscale the resolution. So it's not running natively, but it allows you to still achieve something like performance and ray tracing at the same time. So instead of having to choose between performance and fidelity, you get the performance with the upscaled fidelity that is maybe not, it's not native, but looks better than if it weren't.
Yeah, and it looks better than you're probably going to get on any other console that's not running this form of AI-based resolution increases and frame rate increases.
If this all works out, then the reason you got a Series X for your games to run better and look better Xbox is trying to make it do that better to where you have less of a drastic choice between performance and resolution.
Yeah, and I assume that this will be something that pops up in their first-party games because this AMD technology
probably
is already available on Xbox. It's just that you have to start your game development with the technology in mind, which means that it might not work on the PS5 if they don't have the same kind of thing. So if you're making a multi-platform game, you can't really hop into this AMD thing unless you want to make two different versions.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
So if this is an Xbox like proprietary thing that they're going to create, it may mean that games on Xbox that are exclusive will look dramatically better and perform better than games that are on PS5 unless they come out with something of an equivalent to this.
The good news is we now have, over on the Xbox side, we now have 30 some odd studios and counting.
Yep.
So probably see it often if it works out.
This next piece of news, pretty easy and quick to talk about.
Oh yeah, I like this one.
Halo Infinite multiplayer beta is creeping closer, and it will test the game at scale.
That's what it's going for. So I can take this story. It kind of kicked off on Twitter recently, where Brian Gerard, who's the community director at 343 Industries, he tweeted out PSA, and this was July 7th. He tweeted out PSA. With each week, we're creeping closer and closer to the hashtag Halo Infinite multiplayer technical preview. A key goal is hardening and validating at large scale. Help us out. Spread the word, opt in, verify your email, and be ready. And then people like Joseph Staten, who's kind of like the campaign coordinator for the game. He's like the fucking running the game at this point. I don't even know what Bonnie Ross does. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of a tangent. So they're basically just really hardcore pushing and advertising this. So I actually have signed up for the Halo Insider flight, thing.
The man who doesn't play betas is playing a beta.
Yeah, well, I play Halo betas, it turns out. I've played the Battlefield 1 beta, and then I've played the Gigantic beta. You're familiar, because we both have 0 out of 1,000 gamer score on that. And then, and when the game was canceled too. And then I've played Halo 3's beta, Halo Wars 2's beta, Halo 5's beta. I don't know if I think I played Halo 4's, I don't know. Did I say Halo 4's? Fuck it, I don't care. But yeah, I'm signed up for this. I'll play it. They got me. I wasn't going to, but when they did this whole thing, I was like, you know what? I'll just do it. And I already had a Halo Waypoint account, so it was like really easy. And maybe they email me and be like, hey, come help us out. And I'll be like, okay, and then I'll try it out, and it'll be fun. Oh, last thing to say, people see, it's total speculation. I don't know what people know, but some people do have friends that work at 343 or who work at 343, but I don't know. People expect that this thing, even though it says creeping closer, people expect end of August is kind of the general feel in the community of when it's gonna, like, the beta's gonna happen. I could see beginning of August and middle of August, but I kind of agree where you're probably going to see end of August. And if it goes past that, that's where you shouldn't be very happy. Where if it rolls into September and we haven't had a beta yet, you're like, all right, like, joke's over, enough. Where's it at? That kind of thing. But anyway, that's the last thing I have to say about it.
All right, moving on to Game Pass news. Just a quick what's coming and what's going. Coming to cloud, The Medium. Coming to cloud, Dragon Quest Builders. Coming to console, UFC 4. That's through EA Play, though, so you need Ultimate. Coming to all 3, Blood Roots. Looks like an indie game. Coming to all 3, Tropico 6. And coming to all 3, Farming Simulator 19. Now, the one thing I will say, PlayStation Now actually kind of has them this month in July. But
yeah, Red Dead.
This is Red Dead, and more importantly, Neo 2, because I think Red Dead's in Game Pass right now.
Yeah, I forgot about Neo. Yeah, they got some bangers going in there this month.
Yeah, and they do. The only difference is Xbox announces all of their games weekly, where so that's not including Flight Simulator, which actually has a higher rating than both of than Neo and other games that were announced. I don't think higher than Red Dead, but Game Pass has Red Dead.
That's true. So get fucked, I guess? ?
Yeah, it's definitely a great month where if I had PlayStation Now and a PlayStation, I would be like, oh, maybe I'll give Neo a try. But again, it's like a Souls game, so it still has a very small audience, as much as people want to brag about it.
It's like a depression game. Didn't I tell you about it that one time?
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched Ray play through I don't know what Neo it was. I can't even remember. The Replicant? Well, I don't know. The one that came out recently. And I was like, dude, that game's depressing as shit.
Yeah, but I'm glad that PlayStation Now is finally getting some games. Hopefully we can continue to make this move towards putting all of the exclusives in PlayStation Now so I can play them.
Yeah. Also, listen, PlayStation Now, I want you guys to do well, because if you do well, then Microsoft's going to spend more money to help me out with me spending less money, because they're going to have to compete with you. So I'm cheering for you guys. Like, get some shit in there,
Yeah.
Make Microsoft open the wallet a bit, all right, for me. Okay?
Just a tip, Sony, if you're listening, maybe add MLB The Show to PlayStation Now, since your competitor has it in their streaming service and it's your game.
Damn. Fucking got him there, Jaron. No, but I'll always take your tips, Jaron. Always.
And lastly, the games that are leaving Game Pass kind of make sense. EA Sports UFC, EA Sports UFC 2, so they're kind of just getting rid of the old ones while the new one comes in. Crosscode is leaving, don't even know what that is. Downwell on PC is leaving. Endless Space 2 Deluxe Edition is leaving on PC. These are all leaving July 14th and July 15th. So
hey, Jaron, Downwell's leaving. More like, oh well, am I right?
all right, well.
Did you hear my joke, Jaron?
I did hear your joke. I chuckled about it to myself, but
I called it a joke. That's a little much.
Yeah, I think you oversold it now. Before it was just acceptable that I missed it or reacted.
No.
But now you've oversold it.
Dude, Jaron, remember that underwell joke from earlier? Whatever.
And the last piece of news in the X block, Xbox dominates Steam top seller chart for second week in a row. Caveat,
shit was hype.
Some of these games are on sale, but
yeah, but like shit was hype.
Yeah, Sea of Thieves was number 1, and there were 2 versions of Forza Horizon 4 in there. The base game and like the ultimate version of the game where you get all the DLC, and the Master Chief Collection was in 7th.
Yeah, that's because everybody already owns it on Steam.
Yeah, it's true. So yeah, great that the games are doing well on Steam, means that they'll probably continue to go to Steam, and also means that probably all the PlayStation games will go to Steam, so at some point, if you own a PC, you have no reason to buy a console.
Kind of crazy. All those games are in Game Pass, and they're still the top sellers on Steam. I mean, like, there's sales, but again, Game Pass.
Well, Steam is also in almost every country, and Game Pass, I think, is only in, 29?
See, Jaron, that's where your insight is really, great on a podcast like this, where, like, I don't think about that, and then you say that, and I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. Good for you, Jaron. You should start an Xbox podcast.
And also, just Steam people hate other stores. Like, Steam people hate the Windows Store and the Xbox app. So, they don't even like Epic.
They hate Epic more than anything. I think they like the Nintendo eShop more than the Epic Store.
Very true. So, yeah, they're just kind of doing their own thing on Steam, buying games. They wait for them to be on sale. They're not dumb. Now, we're hopping into our X Factor discussion. And this probably won't be too long of a one, Caleb. I just wanted to talk about Xbox and their weird relationship with influencers.
Yeah, this was a good topic on your part. I read this and I was I read the story and I was interested.
Yeah, so Xbox turned out it's like everyone saw it, the All for One music video where they were advertising All Access, which great marketing.
Shit was hot, Jaron.
Yeah.
It was hot.
Fantastic. It was very entertaining and I loved watching the video. But then they ship out these crates that have all this cool stuff like jackets, controllers, Game Pass Ultimate subscriptions, an Xbox Series S, and they ship it out to like influencers. And it's like, I get that you're marketing and you're trying to do like that low level marketing because influencers have a higher retention rate with their fans of telling them, hey, I got this, you should get that.
I'm going to recap what you said a bit. So, and if you didn't see it, the 90s R&B sensation All for One, who sang the, what was the song? What was it? How does it go?
I Swear?
Yeah, and I swear by the moon. That song? You know
yeah.
So that's the song. They did a parody for Game Pass because the marketing's so hype. And so they did it for the All Access Game Pass. And like Jared said after that, they sent these like stylized 90s boombox kits to influencers. Some dude, Shane Lewis, posted it on Twitter. The folks at Xbox Canada sent him, like Jaron said, a fucking new Series S with a white controller, a phone mount for an Xbox Cloud Gaming, a custom embroidered Retros 90s style jacket, custom embroidered. And then he got, under the jacket was a fake album, which if you scan the QR code, it'll take you to a brand new music video by the band. And then they got a recorded, a personalized recorded message, but if you press like the disc or some shit. All this, Jaron, for the these certain influencers, right? And 12 months of Game Pass Ultimate. And so, like Jaron said, it's just weird that they send all this stuff. And what did we talk about? Was it 3 weeks ago? The Pride Month controller?
Yeah,
that they had.
They didn't even put it up for sale.
No, they just sent like the Pride Month controllers to a bunch of influencers that were actually kind of cool in terms of the color scheme even and everything. And you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then people are like, where can I get one? They're like, well, it's for influencers. And you're like, why? And they're like, we don't know.
It's such a simple fix. It's the one thing where Microsoft does very bizarre marketing. Because like I was saying, I get the point of giving it to influencers because they have a closer audience relationship and they're able to like sell their audience on things much easier.
Yeah, that's why there's a lot behind it. So whatever they're making, they don't want to make a lot of it. And so they can make the amount that they want or need to make by just sending it to influencers. They send it to influencers for a couple reasons. Number one, they get to tell their audience about it. And that's just marketing, clearly. So you don't have to make a product or worry about whatever with everybody. You just send it to your select influencers, and then they can market it for you. Number two, you're trying to keep these influencers more on your side and kind of in your circle. So sending them all this shit, it's like you're not paying them off. But like if I were an influencer and Xbox sent me all this shit, like I know Ray Narvaez Jr., who used to be an Achievement Hunter, and now he just streams on Twitch. But he's just a normally huge Xbox guy. He has like over 1.5 million gamer score or some shit. It's crazy. And he's just a big Xbox fan. And they send him all kinds of stuff all the time. And obviously, he's going to remain an Xbox fan. Because you're like, well, Xbox are the dudes who just randomly send me a $500 console before it's out. Or a fridge. Or a random controller. Or a whole 90s kit with a custom embroidered jacket shit. So it's like, all these influencers are really going to be in Xbox's camp, if nothing because they get like hundreds and thousands of dollars worth of free limited shit all the time.
Yeah.
So, and that's cool. Like, I don't blame them. Like, hustle up. You know what I'm saying? But on Xbox's side, they're like, yeah, they kind of get that they're just kind of trying to keep you in their camp. But the people who, I don't want to say suffer, because suffer is a strong word. You don't really suffer. But you have the rest of the fan base who are like, hey, I'm a big Xbox fan. I want to buy that controller. And Xbox like, that's really cool, dude. Fuck you. It's just you're right. It's a weird kind of whole marketing strategy in a relationship with influencers. I mean, do you have anything else to say about it besides like, what should they do differently? Like, do you have any suggestions? Besides just mass make whatever you're making?
Well, you don't even have to mass make it. Like, if you want to, like, I get that when you do a care package like this, that it's going to be limited edition. Yeah. Like, that's kind of standard practice. You're not going to make a ton of them because there's no reason that someone would buy this. And the price for it would be, like, ridiculous.
It would.
Because you're getting a jacket, an Xbox, and, like, half the stuff you probably don't even want. 13 months of Game Pass Ultimate. Like, it's stuff that you give to people as kind of like this thing's cool. So that's what they should be doing. They should be giving it to influencers. And then they should also save 15 of them and do a giveaway with it. You're already giving them away.
There you go.
Just do a giveaway.
Good call. Giveaway. Everyone gets equal chance. Somebody wins. Everyone else loses. Fuck it. That's a good way to go about it. And it solves a lot of the problems. Just do giveaways. Even, like, you don't even have to do, like, 5 people. Like, do, like, a fucking mass, like, 25 to 100 people giveaway one time. You know what I'm saying? Like, every now and then.
Yeah, like, I'm fine giving it to the influencers. Like, go ahead, give it to the influencers because they market your shit and probably get more people to buy it.
Yeah, they have a large audience and they are, theoretically, but not always. Sometimes they're already not your fan, but usually they're your fan. And they're already, like, telling people about you, so, like, fuck it, just give them shit.
Yeah, but also do a random giveaway at the same time. So, like, in the pure Xbox forums, where we're looking at this stuff, the top 3 comments are, the rich get richer, maybe I should try my hand at professional influencer. And then it does get old. And then anyone else tired of hearing about influencers getting free stuff from companies.
Yeah, like, how does that help me? Like, it helps them still influence, but at this moment you see the news and you're like, oh, a bunch of, you would presume, although this isn't always true, but I'm just saying is like a general, like, kind of fan's attitude. You'd be like, oh, some rich influencer who makes their money talking about video games and all this shit. They got more cool shit that I can't have because I'm poor working at this job. Cool, great. And I'm a big Xbox fan, like that kind of thing. I mean, normally you want to be more like, hey man, good, like that's good for you. Like I didn't get that, but that sucks. But like good for you, man. Like that's generally like that's kind of the good person response, is just be happy that even if people who aren't you get good things. But then I get the frustration with fans being like, yo, like why though?
Yeah, like the fans who do pay for everything and who are the reason that the company is able to give this shit away, that they don't even have a chance at getting it. Like I'm not saying give all this shit out to everyone. Obviously not. No. But at least let there be a chance that a random person also can get what influencers get.
All that said, Jared and I are for sale. Like our asses, like send us a fridge and we'll talk up whoever you want. Send us, we just need the Series X fridge, mini fridge. Send us a fridge and that's all we need. Other than that though, yeah, fuck that, dude. They should do giveaways. Yeah.
They should do both. All right. moving on to the FAF. And here in the FAF, we talk about the news that you shouldn't need to read. The news that if you're reading it, you're wasting your time. You're faffing about. And Caleb reads you the funny names that I write down. And then I give you a brief kind of talk about what the shitty news that you don't need to know is.
Spoilers, we already mentioned one earlier, Nintendo. Stories in here somewhere.
Somewhere.
But the first topic in the FAF is the micro FAF.
Micro FAF. The X-Screen portable Xbox Series S display has reached its Kickstarter target in 20 minutes. Now, this is just an Xbox Series X with a screen on top, kind of like a games case.
They didn't, listen, Jaron, they didn't get me. I scrolled by on Twitter, I saw this article, and I didn't click on it, because they didn't get me on that. I knew about it. I was like, oh, you just read that, and I was like, oh, I heard about that, but I didn't know enough to click on it. And so, we were talking about the games case last week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess they're making another, it's just gonna be a screen that you literally stick on your Xbox.
Yeah, you just clip it onto your Xbox.
So there you go. You can walk around carrying a fucking, I want a Series X one under your arm. You gotta carry a Series X. It's thing weighs 1,000 pounds under your arm in the airport with the screen.
This one's just for the Series S, though.
Yeah, I know. I was hoping that I want a sequel.
Yeah, you want a sequel, the Series X version.
Yeah, I want you to have to, like, shove this fucking screen through your Series X. You have to, like, break the console to use it. Something stupid.
And the last piece of news in MicroFAF, Minecraft gets an R rating in South Korea.
It's well-deserved. Jared, I don't want to say anything, but you know what we've built in Minecraft.
It's true. It definitely has the potential to be an R rating if you're us.
It really do. Depending on who you are, that shit can get fucking crazy. That's all I want to say.
All right, Caleb, move on to the next one.
Console competitors, upside down and underpowered.
Sony deletes PlayStation 5 ad after Twitter observers noticed the console was actually upside down in the ad.
Oh, this is another one where I saw usually I don't even see a lot of the FAF. Like, I mean, some of it. But this one was another one where I'm like, dude, they didn't get me, Jaron, because I'm usually the idiot who clicks on FAF news. This one I just saw and didn't click on. Good for me, man. It was upside down? How do you know? The console's shaped like a fucking bean. Like, I don't know how you know what side it is.
Apparently it's upside down. I think Sony said not to put it that way. The funny thing is, I saw a screenshot of, like, Herman Holtz's setup, and his is upside down too.
God.
So I have a feeling that whoever made this ad probably looked up Herman Holtz's setup, saw it on Twitter, was like, well, this guy's like the CEO or whatever he is, so put it that way.
Dude, they were making these consoles, man. Xbox was like, yo, what if we make a fucking rectangle that looks like a PC tower and we market it as powerful and it looks like a PC. So like, and it's simple. And you can put any decal you want on it because it's a fucking rectangle. And then PlayStation's like, yo, what if we like make something that like someone who had 2001 A Space Odyssey describe to them what they would come up with? You know, like what if we make that our console? That's what they did. And now no one knows whether it's the right side up or not.
PlayStation's marketing strategy was, let's make a console so ugly that when we release a slim version, everyone has to rebuy the console.
How is it easier to tell whether the fucking rectangular prism is right side up or not than the fucking whatever is not a rectangular prism? How's that happen?
And now for the underpowered part of what was just said, Nintendo Switch Pro is officially announced as OLED model. It's just an OLED model of the Switch with a LAN port and more internal storage. But if you own a Switch at this point, you definitely would have bought a bigger internal storage card.
You know what else had a LAN port, Jaron? The Sega Dreamcast had a LAN port. The original Xbox had a fucking LAN port, Jaron. Somebody at Bloomberg, you recall, reported at the beginning of this year. There's a little more to talk about with this because it's Nintendo's new stupid-ass console. Or not really new console, but you know what I mean, iteration. So someone reported at the beginning of this year that, like, from Bloomberg, that they had, a more powerful Switch model coming up that would run at, like, 4K, OLED, and some other shit. Turns out it's just kind of an iteration of the Switch. And it's similar to kind of like how the Game Boy Advance had, and the Nintendo DS had these, like, just upgrades that didn't increase the power, but gave you, like, a backlight and shit, that kind of stuff. It seems like they're just doing that for the Switch. But instead of a backlight, they're giving you an OLED. And the stand is bigger on the back. And it's also a Sega Dreamcast, maybe. And that's what they're doing. So they have the benefit of cloud, right, on the Switch to be able to run some of these games, like Control.
You know what,
in the cloud, for instance? What's up?
We're not going to defend them.
No, I'm saying, well, but they have the cloud, though. Like, that exists. That's an equalizer.
It's fine. They changed a 6.2-inch screen to a 7-inch OLED. The important part of this news is still smaller than me.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jaron. Well, so that's kind of all there is to know about the Nintendo Switch. Maybe you'll still get an upgraded model in a year or two. Jaron, here's your recommendation. Here it comes with the faff. Would you say for someone who doesn't own a Switch at this point but wants one, to buy the old one or the new one?
The old one. It'll be on sale.
Okay, correct answer was neither, but, you failed. Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
All right, Caleb, hit me with the next one.
Well, EA was looking up for a few weeks there.
Codemasters execs leave 4 months after EA purchase, where EA claimed that they weren't going to change Codemasters' business model and would be kind of hands-off like Microsoft is.
I'm confused about this one because I didn't read this one either. So these executives at Codemasters left, which is weird because usually you buy the studios to keep the talent and the leadership. Were these people just rich and now from the acquisition, so they just wanted to bounce? Was it like, did EA and them come to some sort of unanimous agreement between like what they wanted? So like they wanted to bounce and EA didn't want them there anyway, so they just agreed to let them bounce. Did they have some sort of contract where they weren't supposed to bounce for like 6 years, which is kind of what usually happens with acquisitions? Because with acquisitions, usually, like I said, don't want to lose talent. So typically there's some sort of stipulation where you can't just take the money and run. You have like a 6-year contract or a payout or some shit, right?
Yeah, this isn't like the Xbox Bethesda thing where like the board left. They were the CEO and CFO.
Okay, the CFO is pretty big too. Yeah, I don't really care as a CEO as much, but
yeah. So they were just like, thanks for the money, and then they just bounced.
Yeah, they were like, fuck it. I guess there wasn't some contract saying they couldn't leave, so I guess they didn't care.
Yeah, or it's EA pushing people out to try to conform them more to what they want, even though they said they weren't going to do that.
One of those two.
All right, Caleb, hit us with the last one.
The duty department. First time ever, you put a fucking image in the doc of Commander Picard, I believe, from Star Trek, with his fucking face in his hand, disappointed.
Activision has started to take action against AI-powered cheat software following reports about this earlier this week. So essentially what this is there's now something that you can hook into your PC and run it through your console, which is an AI cheat learning machine that goes around your console's securities so that you can use an aimbot on PlayStation and Xbox.
What the fuck? What the fuck, Jaron? Where are the cheaters? What are they doing? Who wants to cheat at video games? Is it the 12-year-olds?
No,
who,
they're
think
not
it's cool
smart
forever?
enough.
Yeah, see, they're not. That's what's crazy about like what is fun about going around and cheating in a game in a competitive game? I don't really get it.
No idea.
I guess if you get people mad enough, that may be kind of fun for a little bit.
But you're probably only making the 12-year-olds mad because they're the ones that shout on their mics.
I genuinely don't, and I know a lot of people don't because I've written a lot of stories about this from Call of Duty. No one understands what joy you get out of cheating in a competitive shooter. Doesn't make any sense. It's like that defeats the point of the game part of it. Yep. It's not a game anymore.
And you know what? That's the end.
That's the end?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what about, see, this wasn't in here, but did you remember like this 4th of July bullshit where like Titanfall 2, like the hackers kind of took it over and said like fix your game and shit? You remember that? Did you read that story?
Yeah, they wanted people to go and play Titanfall 2 and fix up Titanfall 2 instead of playing Apex, which by all means, Titanfall 2, great game, but you don't need to crush another game's community to make people go and play a different game. That's not going to work.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of hackers in it, though. I think that's the problem. There's like hackers in Titanfall 2 now.
Oh, okay.
And they want them fixed or something. Yeah, that was some more faff news, but that was faff news I actually knew about this week. But other than that, dude, I'm down. It's over.
All right. And that is the end of the X Block Podcast, episode 19. If you'd like to hear us somewhere else you're listening now, we're on YouTube, the X Block Podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, pretty much anywhere that Anchor connects us to. And if you'd like to follow us outside of listening to the podcast, you can head over to Twitter at X Block Podcast. You can head over to Instagram at X Block Podcast. And that's about it for now. The TikTok will come back at some point, and then we've got to go over to Caleb to tell us about Patreon.
Patreon.com/xblockpodcast. Please support us over there if you want. But we will gladly take any number or amount of donations that will support the podcast and give me money towards buying a new mic so that when Jared and I load up the fucking thing to record today, somehow my mic didn't switch default bullshit to the wrong thing and we had to fix that for like 10 minutes, you know? So maybe consider going to patreon.com/xblockpodcast, checking it out. You can listen to the podcast over there too. Jaren uploads them. It's crazy. It's a whole thing over there, dude. Go check it out and donate. We love you.
Yep.
Oh, and so Jaron, the one sentence reactions or the quick quips, are those coming back next week?
Oh yeah, they weren't important enough this week, so it didn't matter.
They weren't. I like that feeling. Jaron's just like, you know what? I'm not feeling it. I'm out. I'm over it. And I'm like, I respect that, Jaron. Sometimes you got to go take a poop or something in the middle of podcast. Who knows? You know, I respect it.
Yep. And just so you know, no matter how much money you give us on Patreon, you may fix Caleb's mic, but you won't fix Caleb.
Nope.
And that is the end of the X Block Podcast, episode 19. Thanks for listening. X Block out.
Thanks for listening to the X Block. New episodes every Monday at 5 a.m.
Big dick, bigger brain. Yeah.